Welcome back, movie lovers. Story recaps here. Today, we are going to explore a 2023 erotic thriller that is set up in a cutthroat world of high-stake finance. The story of a couple and how their romantic relation takes a nosedive when their boss starts showing more interest towards his fiancé. Movie begins at a party where we see Emily smoking at a balcony. Soon we see Luke asking Emily to join the party with him. He introduces her enthusiastically to his uncle and friends. They are dancing and having a great time. They are so in love. They take their party to the restroom. Luck was not their friend that night as it was that day of the month for Emily. They get a big giggle out of it. Suddenly Emily sees a ring on the floor. Luke takes the moment and proposes her. Emily is hesitant at the beginning as he was drunk, but she says yes eventually. They sneak out the party through the window. Next scene opens in the morning where we see both of them getting ready for office. Emily texts her mom about her engagement, but leaves her ring at home, which makes us wonder as to why she does not want it to be known. Later, when we see Emily and Luke arriving at same office separately, we get to know that their office does not allow romantic relation between co-workers. As an affirmation, we also see them acting as strangers. Later on, we see that one of their portfolio managers, Quinn, has some disagreement with the management and starts smashing his place. Later, we learn that he has been fired. The news spread and people start speculating who will be taking his place. Emily overhears one such gossip and realizes that Luke's name was also on the table. She gets overjoyed and shares the news with Luke. The day ends, and on reaching back home we see Luke and Emily are celebrating this big news in their own way. After they are done, and in the shower, Luke asks if she was jealous of his promotion. Emily assures him that she isn't. Luke teases her by saying that if given a choice, he would be choosing his promotion over her. In the light of all this, Emily mentions that they might need to make their relation public because it might affect their career. Luke tells her that the time isn't right. He adds by telling that if they disclose it once they both get promoted, then it cannot harm them anymore. Later that night, we see Emily getting a call from her manager to meet up at a bar. Upon reaching, she was surprised to see Campbell instead. She joins him, and he starts listing her achievements and mentioned how impressed he was. The chat concludes with Campbell offering the empty seat of Quinn to Emily. Emily accepts the offer and returns home. Upon reaching, we find Luke waiting for her. He asks about her errand, and she tells her that she went to meet Campbell. On hearing that, Luke asks if he tried something indecent. She says nothing happened and continues by saying that she was the one to be promoted and not him. Luke paused for a moment and then congratulated her. Emily was upset as she felt guilty about it. Next day, we see Emily starts her new role, and gossip starts spreading among the co-workers about how she might have secured the position. Luke overheard some of them and he didn't like any of it. Later on, we see Emily asks Luke for some data regarding a stock they are planning to buy. She asks her for updates, but Luke is not quick in his replies. When she looks at him, she finds him staring at the screen. That worries her a bit. The day ends, and on her way back, we see Emily talking to her mom about her engagement. Her mom is aggressively making arrangements for her wedding. This upsets her, and she asks her to slow down as things were rough at work. On reaching home, she gets worried to not find Luke. She tries his phone, but it goes straight to voicemail. Later, we see she finds him in one of his spots drinking all by himself. Upon asking, he says that he was celebrating her promotion. However, stressed from the gossips, he again asks if Campbell tried anything with her that night. That upsets Emily as she feels that Luke was questioning her capability of getting the promotion. Luke assures that it was not the case. Emily promises that she will help him get the next promotion so that things will be better for both of them. Luke did not like the idea and tells her that he could do that by himself. From this, we sense a rift getting created between them. Next day at office, we see Emily working on her promise to Luke. She finds a way and asks him to look into a stock, hoping that would draw Campbell's attention towards him. Luke hesitates initially, but agrees eventually. They both burn midnight oil and get the accounts ready. Later, when she pitches it to her partners, they do not seem interested. Paul warns her about Luke's choices as he made them lose $15 million in the past. Campbell even forbids her from taking Luke's advice in future. Later, we see Emily joining other partners for drink, where she tries to pitch Luke once more. But she learns that Campbell was not fond of Luke and was waiting for him to quit. He tells Emily that Luke was hired as a favor and not on merit. Emily reaches home drunk and finds Luke watching a leadership program. She comments that the program is scamming people for money, but he does not pay her any attention. She tries to seduce him, but Luke retires after kissing her good night. From the next morning, we see Luke absorbed in his own work and ignoring Emily. We learn that he is slowly growing resentful of Emily noticing the perks from her promotion. This sentiment grows as the story develops. Later on, getting invited for a fancy dinner by Emily, Luke refuses, saying that he had some work of his own. We see Emily having an elegant dinner by herself and celebrating with fancy wine. Upon reaching, she finds that Luke has already bought the program. She taunts him by saying that he got fooled despite being an analyst. This offends him, and he goes on saying that she could learn something about dressing properly for work. This upsets Emily, and she asks for an explanation. Luke tells that she dresses like she wants to attract people at work. This comment impacts her, and next day she dresses more in a conventional way and tries to be more bold in her statements. But it backfired when she is rectified by her co-worker. Later we see Emily and Luke arguing over a stock. However, Luke convinces Emily to stay put, and that decision would benefit their relation. In the hope of repairing their fractured relation, she agrees to go along, only to find out later that was a mistake. Luke's error in judgment cost them $25 million. Emily gets furious and yells at him. She faces backlash from her partners as well. She promises to clean the mess. Luke comes up with another stock that might help them offset the loss, but it was another risky move. Emily was skeptical this time. Meanwhile, she was eyeing another stock that she felt could redeem her. Amidst the tension, we see Emily getting annoyed with her mother for making her engagement a public knowledge. Out of frustration, she goes to make love to Luke, but he was hesitant. Eventually he agrees, but we see that he is not able to perform. This incident upsets both of them. Soon Emily receives a call from Campbell asking about update of the mess. Emily trusted her gut and told him that they should buy the stock that she chose and ignored Luke's suggestion. That upset Luke. Next morning we find out that her decision was actually the right one. This stock offset the previous loss and then made them some significant profit. She even receives $500,000 in commission. Emily's work hours were almost over and she was texting Luke about evening plans. But Luke is seen not to reply. Emily could see him clearly ignoring her texts, so when her co-workers invited her, she agreed to go with them instead. Upon returning, we see drunk Emily telling all about her night. Luke is upset to see her like that. While emptying her bag, Luke gets a glance of her commission check. Emily tries to get intimate, but Luke walks out. That annoys her and she calls her pathetic. Luke loses his cool and rebukes her by saying that she was acting out of character and looks like a girl that the man would hire for fun. That leaves Emily in tears. Next morning we see Luke continuing his loathing towards Emily. He gets more upset from what other men were talking about last night. Meanwhile, he finds another portfolio manager getting fired. He sees this as his opportunity. Despite incident from last night, he demands from Emily to make good on her promise to recommend him to Campbell. Emily is hesitant as she knows well that won't work given Luke's existing reputation. Luke kept pressing, but Emily refused. Luke decided to go to the CEO directly and got down on his knees and begging for the job, only to be humiliated as the job was already taken. That night, upon reaching home, she tries to check on Luke, but he just lets her know that her mother had been calling him. On calling back, she learns that her mother was throwing them a party. That upsets Emily and she tells that they are not in good state, but her mother told that she had already booked the venue. This conversation was intervened by Luke when he realized that his leadership books were missing. He accuses Emily of throwing them out. Emily denies, but concurrently saying that they were messing with this mind. Amidst all that, Emily receives a late-night call from Campbell. That infuriates him even more. He accuses her that she lets everyone walk all over her. Emily refutes by saying that it was he who was walking all over her. Luke yells that he has been supportive all along when she stole his job. Emily loses it and ends up telling that the job was never his, as they were planning to fire him anyway. That shocks Luke and he storms out. Next morning, Emily finds Luke missing at the office. When asked about, she covers for him, telling that he was sick. She could not reach him at all. Later, during a meeting, she was startled to see a drunk Luke disrupting the meeting. He lashes out at Campbell for being a brute. He even tries to sabotage Emily by revealing their relationship before everyone. Emily is mortified with that and rushes to find Luke. She calls his brother and learns that Luke was present in their engagement party. She rushes to the party to confront him. In the middle of their argument, we see Luke's mom congratulates them on their promotion, as Luke lied that they both got promoted. Emily laughs at that and exposes Luke by telling that she fired him earlier today. Luke fights back, accusing her of sleeping with her boss to secure the job. That infuriates Emily, and she smashes a bottle on his head and retreats to washroom to cool down. Luke follows her and continues to rebuke her. He finally displays all the resentment he had bottled up inside for a while now. During their fight, he pins her against the wall. Suddenly, the anger of dispute slowly turned into passion, and they start making love. However, Luke gets aggressive, so Emily asks him to stop, but he doesn't listen until he was done. Luke realizes what he had done and watches Emily leaving the scene with guilt. Next morning, we see Emily waking up bruised from last night's encounter. Anyway, she fixes herself and goes to office to face an inquiry. When asked, she denied knowing Luke and telling that he was stalking her from past few months. She feared for her life, but did not report to police because she thought him to be mentally unstable and he might harm himself. Campbell accepts her justification, but warns her not to repeat such actions in future. Later, upon returning, she finds Luke waiting for her at their house. He was packed up to leave. He lets her know his future plans, but Emily is not interested and she demands an apology for what he did to her. But Luke denies everything, telling that they both were equally responsible. Emily breaks down to see his lack of concern. She kneels to pick a knife and corners him against the wall just like he did before. She threatens him to apologize and beg for mercy. Luke tried to oppose, but she sliced his hand immediately. Seeing how serious she was, he drops down on his knees and breaks into tears. He admitted everything and apologized. Emily kneels over to him and asks him to clean the blood from the floor and leave her life for good. She rises and leaves a sigh of relief, and movie ends on that note. And there you have it, the intense love story of fair play that turned into bitter gender role conflict. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more exciting movie recaps.